Thank you. Attendance, Madam Clerk.
We have all in attendance, Your Worship.
Thank you. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof? Okay. So we have a couple consent items. We have the agenda and the minutes from our last meeting on the 10th. Is there a mover and seconder to approve these? Thank you, Councillor Ferguson and Councillor Suter. Any errors or omissions in either of those items? There we go. Okay, seeing none, all in favor? Thank you. So this brings us to the one delegation we have. I'd like to invite Sheila Stokoyevich. I was practicing and I hope I still got it okay. But if you'd like to come up and join us, there is a letter in our package too on page 10 from Ms. Stokoyevich. So whenever you're ready to go,
It's in a very big font.
that's what I do too.
Your Worship and Council. I am the grandmother of Archer Lowe, who was a student at R. Tate Mackenzie Elementary School. He was fatally wounded on June the, I don't know if I'm gonna make it. Sorry. Anyways, he's not here anymore. It was the second last day of the school year. Since that tragic day, this community has been immensely supportive, including the Miss Valley, Mississippi Mills. Oh, sorry.
Don't apologize.
Okay. On behalf of Archer's family, we thank everyone for their kindness and support during this emotional struggle. Okay. I'm running to express a concern regarding a proposal within the Safe and Active School review report presented, or it will be presented by the director later this evening, of Director of Roads and Public Works. And it's going to be considered by council. I'm very appreciative of all the work that has been done thus far and wholeheartedly agree with most of the proposals in the safety initiatives. However, I'd like to address the Patterson and Tatra Street raised intersection and actually also the speed bump at the crosswalk, the speed. Anyways, it is my understanding that a raised intersection, speed hump, will aid in decreasing traffic speed and increasing visibility to high pedestrian areas. However, I'm hoping that you'll strongly reconsider the proposed Patterson and Tatra Street location. Placing a speed hump at an all-way stop seems redundant to me. Vehicles at this intersection will already be at a standstill, thereby diminishing the intended purpose of the speed hump. On the following page I had a map of marked with an X for the proposed location. And actually, Nathan, Archer's dad, came up with that idea where the sign is at R. Tate School. I think it's a portable sign, isn't it?
No, I don't think so.
No, okay, well,
No.
there's a sign that's kind of between the two, the entrance and the exit of the school buses,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
It's right in the middle. That's where I would think it would be better placed. So vehicles proceeding north on Patterson Street towards the two elementary schools would be forced to slow down prior to passing both schools and the crosswalk. And vehicles traveling south would be forced to slow down as they proceed closer to the Tatra Street intersection. I'm not sure if any surveys were offered to the taxpayer in recent months, but it's crucial to seek feedback from parents who regularly use this high traffic school zone. Their first-hand experience offers valuable insight into traffic patterns and safety concerns. I acknowledge the complexity of planning and budgeting for such initiatives and balancing the needs of the whole community. But in the report, there's a bunch of safety initiatives for other schools as well. After reading other traffic studies, I was reading one in particular from the Toronto area. Education for young pupils is also a key measure in preventing road traffic accidents among primary school children. However, such initiative, it would be up to the school boards, of course. Although I'm not a resident of Mississippi Mills, I'm writing as a concerned grandparent who has experienced the dreadful loss of my precious 9-year-old grandson Archer and deeply feel the wounds of his parents. Thank you. Oh, just wait, before I say thank you. I have some other ideas because unfortunately I read, I just opened the agenda this afternoon, mid-afternoon, and found the full report, the Parsons report. So after going through that, well, I do think that the speed humps would be better placed by that portable sign, and maybe the other one between Morton and Ottawa Street, closer to the Morton Street intersection, so that when traffic is traveling south, it would be slowing down prior to the existing crosswalk that already has flashing lights. I also read in the report that the bollards or the flex posts are going to be utilized again. In the report, it speaks of the street being narrow, and it is. But it is well within legal guidelines or legal stuff. So, but I believe putting the bollards in the center of the road just nudges traffic closer to the curb. And it also would divert your attention. Like now your attention is competing with the bollard and the curb or the children. I thought maybe put the bollards on the right side. That might be an idea. I just thought of that today. I have questions of in the report, and I'm not going to be able to address that tonight, but how many visits the report, when they did the report, how was it, people who conducted the visits on site, how many times they did visit? They did visit during school times in the morning and the evening at high traffic times. And I was just wondering if anyone spoke or if parents who use that corridor on a regular basis, if they were polled for their comments and advice, because I think that would be really valuable information. Just today, I was traveling south towards Thatcher Street, and there's a stop sign. It's a 3-way stop. And it's quite low, so it's at eye level, but there's a great big cedar bush there. The stop sign doesn't stand out. So either it might be a private cedar tree, I'm not sure, but it could be really cut back to make that stop sign more visible, because when I was coming back and traveling north, the other stop sign, same distance from the road, but it was very visible because there was nothing obstructing that. And my mom and I had an idea, and I was sitting at our Tate school looking at how the kids load in the bus, and there's this yellow line. So I'm sure the kids are all instructed to stay behind the yellow line when the buses pull up until they're told to enter the bus. My ideal fix for this corridor is to have at least a foot of green space between the curb and the road. I know that's not going to happen. It's a very expensive, I believe that's in the report or in Corey's report about how expensive that would be. You'd have to redo the whole crosswalk and, uh, you know, take over some land, expropriate, is that what it's called? But anyways, so failing that, at least a foot of yellow fluorescent paint on the sidewalk. And then telling kids to walk, don't walk on the yellow part. Just to give them that extra foot of wiggle room in case they trip. I see quite a few slants, like entrance ways that are, so if it was covered in ice, they could slip, they could trip over shoelace, they could run around. And so if you instructed children to stay on the other side of the yellow, like if you painted just, to me, it's just paint. And a big swath of paint on the sidewalk on both sides. Instruct the kids to stay on the other side. Don't get too close to the curb. I think that's it. I had one more thing, but anyways, I want to thank you folks, Mississippi Mills and the community for allowing me this time to speak on this important safety matter. I encourage council to visit the area and speak with parents and thoroughly evaluate the existing professional reports before installing the speed bumps on Patterson Street. The speed bumps are really, I see it, but the road, the street painting and all the other measures like the curb straightening and stuff like that, they're great. I'm very appreciative of all that. Going forward, we don't want to slow anything down either. But I guess that's it. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you.
Well, thank you for your letter. Thank you for spending a little time with us, and to Nathan and Sarah for being here with us. I really appreciate the conversations that we've had over the last little while, and I really appreciate that you came to talk to us, not just submit a letter, but to talk to us about how you're seeing things and the feedback that you have on this. As you know, we're going to talk about this later in our next meeting. And I would like to, offer again, if you'd like to sit, down with Corey or Jean and Corey or, a few of the staff members to walk through some of those questions, we can make sure that that happens. Yeah. Okay. All right.
We appreciate all the time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You're very welcome. Let's just take a 2-minute recess. Is there a mover and seconder to move the recommendation that the delegation from Sheila Stokorovich be received as information? Thank you, Councillor Holmes and Councillor Suter. All in favor? Thank you very much. And this brings us to the public meeting. Welcome to our senior planner, and I will pass it right over to you, Mr. Brennan.
Thank you, Your Worship. Before I start my presentation, I'm just going to be preamble in accordance with the requirements of the Planning Act. In accordance with Section 34 of the Planning Act, before a decision is made by an approval authority, the approval authority shall ensure that a public meeting is held. This is a statutory public meeting for the purpose of giving the public the opportunity to make submissions with respect to the proposed zoning bylaw amendment. If a person or public body would otherwise have an ability to appeal the decision of the municipality of Mississippi Mills to the Ontario Land Tribunal, but the person or public body does not make oral submissions at the public meeting or make written submissions to the municipality of Mississippi Mills before the bylaw is passed, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision. If a person or public body does not provide written submissions or participate in the hearing, the council may proceed in your absence and you will not be entitled to any further notice of the proceedings. It is the practice of the council, after hearing all evidence, to make a decision in public to approve, deny, or defer a zoning bylaw amendment. Persons taking part in the public meeting and wishing a copy of the decision must make a written request to the assigned planner. Persons or public bodies were asked to pre-register with the planning department with their name and address to make comments. Oral and written submissions will continue to be accepted following the public meeting. A brief overview of the proposed zoning bylaw amendment will be provided by staff. If the applicant has registered as a speaker for this public meeting, they may also make a presentation to the public at this public meeting. The public will then be provided an opportunity to make comments and ask questions. I will confirm that we do have several registered public speakers for tonight's public meeting, including the applicant. And with that, the subject application is zoning bylaw amendment D14-NEI-26, and the subject properties are 140, 156, 160, and 164. Frank Fisher Crescent. Here we can see the subject properties on the screen outlined in blue. I will make a note that this is within the Whitetail Ridge Real Estate Subdivision. These lots are vacant. They are all approximately 17 to 1,800 square meters in size and all have approximately 25 meters of frontage. The surrounding land uses are predominantly low-density residential, as well as open space. I do want to note that the aerial image that we're seeing is a bit outdated from 2024. There's been an extensive amount of development on Frank Fisher following this aerial. Specifically, I believe there are 6 vacant lots. So the 4 that are being outlined in blue, subject to the zoning bylaw amendment, as well as 165 Frank Fisher, and then 104 Frank Fisher, which is at the other corner of Frank Fisher and Antler that's not shown on the screen. The subject properties are designated rural settlement area and hamlet in the community official plan and zoned rural residential special exception 4. Both the intent of the COP and zoning is to support low density residential development and maintain the existing development pattern in villages and rural estate subdivisions. I do want to note a provision of the RR4 zone. It requires a minimum side yard of 5 meters, but where there's a attached garage or carport, one of the interior side yards can be reduced to 3 meters. So essentially you can have 5 on one side and 3 on the other. And the zoning bylaw does not say which side it has to be each. With that, the purpose of the subject zoning bylaw amendment is to rezone the properties from RR4 to a new rural residential special exception zone, where each of the interior side yard setbacks can be 3 meters as opposed to just one side. All other performance standards in the RR4 zone would continue to apply, and there's no additional permitted uses that are being requested. So generally the RR4 only permits detached dwellings in terms of its permitted housing typologies. So that would continue through this application. I do want to note that there was a successful planning application, specifically a minor variance that was approved by Committee of Adjustment last August for 161 Frank Fisher. The requested variance was for the same relaxation that's being requested through the zoning bylaw amendment. So specifically a minimum interior side yard setback of 3 meters on both sides of a detached dwelling. The applicant could have submitted 4 separate minor variance applications, one for each of the subject properties, and staff would have accepted those applications in lieu of this zoning bylaw amendment. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you very much. Over to team clerk.
Yes, so for those who are, you'll be asked to accept the invitation to be a panelist. So we'll start admitting people now. If you could accept the pop-up. We don't have everyone actually on Zoom who pre-registered. And some people have different names on their screen as what have pre-registered. So I'll go down the list based on who we heard from first. We have an Allison Landon. Okay, we'll go to Mike Lavoie.
I'm here.
Take off quick share.
All
So-
right, you're welcome to provide your comments, sir.
I was trying to follow along. Unfortunately, they weren't sharing that screen. It was kind of flickering back and forth to different things, but I'm assuming we're talking about the different piece of land, but there was 2 extra pieces of land that on the original report or the staff report that I was looking at aren't highlighted in blue, but the gentleman before this mentioned there was 2 others. So my point to this is in our Whitetail Ridge area, subdivision area, we moved here because it was a low density neighborhood along with a bunch of other houses that would all be zoned the same. So changing the zoning to allow a wider house or less property to be green on each side of the house would impact a few different pieces here. So the more we allow the scale of these homes to look and feel much closer together, you end up with a view with having much more high density housing, which is the opposite why we bought here. So one of the, like one point would be the erosion of the low density character of the property we're on here. So when I look at the existing zoning, the RR4 zoning, they're deliberately written to keep that generous 5 meter side yard for the subdivisions and to get that feel spacious, kind of like an estate-like feeling. Reducing those setbacks of those 4. Now we're talking a couple of other lots, I guess. That potentially sets a precedent for the builder and other developer lots to change that visual concept for the Frank Fisher area and opens up the rural estate to a more suburban, tight-packed area where residents who bought here specifically chose Almont rural estate over the city or large town living lifestyle. And this would just dilute that Almont character that we're used to in this neighborhood. On a different point, the visual optical impacts of this, with only 3 meters on each side instead of the 5 meters, the new houses that will sit there will be noticeably closer to other side properties and therefore closer to existing homes on either side of those. Now, I get that the other property, I think is 161, the guy before me mentioned, probably didn't have neighbors at a time. So there was no one else to voice that. I certainly don't remember hearing about this before. But from the street and from the neighborhood's backyard, this creates, basically less green and lawn space for that buffer zone to be visual between the houses. It creates a more crowded street kind of scape. It's a loss of the open air feel that defines this area and this whole neighborhood for the Whitetail Ridge area. The existing homes were built here under the 5 meter rule. So new ones will look out of place and break that uniform premium appearance of the crescent. Another reason why we bought here. Another point the negative effect on resale value and marketability is a big one, because buyers in this price range pay a premium precisely because it's marketed and zoned as low density and rural estate. Even if 4 houses are allowed to be built noticeably closer, different, the whole subdivision starts to feel less exclusive, less premium. Future buyers searching for the spacious rural living just won't find it anymore, especially if they're looking specifically at those properties. They won't know about the other properties that might have that the old concept. And so when those future buyers look here, they may come across the Whitetail Ridge area and just cross off their list altogether. So Almont and the area states that keep that original 5-meter standards, right? So it becomes a change of variance. And not to mention the appraisers and real estate agents often take note that even small changes make the neighborhood appear denser and can reduce the perceived value across the board, potentially affecting everyone in their properties in this area, not just the 4 new ones. On the privacy side, just the living concerns for those neighbors, right? So neighbors on each side, that means, more windows, more decks, closer day-to-day activities for the neighbors. Everything will be physically closer from the side yards and the rear yards and the neighbors around them, which reduces the privacy and buffer that everyone assumes they were going to get and were protected by the original zoning. On the precedents and side of things, that's a slippery slope, and it's a risk that apparently have already happened, because I didn't know about the other property that Jim mentioned, but that the applicant is the builder in this case here, the local builder, with the rights remaining undeveloped in the lots for the same subdivision. Approving this spot for rezoning for the builder, it's convenience for them to make it for the builder. It's convenience, right? It makes it very hard for the municipality to refuse similar requests on the next lot and the next lot and the next lot, or if a house has to be rebuilt, for example. And there's a whole bunch of other building neighborhoods that are going to happen over time around us. So over time, the entire subdivision could lose the whole low density protection that were the reason why people bought here. And just like we heard, the property 161 made that application and was approved. That's just kind of setting precedence for this, while no one else in the neighborhood really knew about it. And going to the next point, that pretty much contradicts the whole stated intent of the office planning and zoning bylaw. So both the community office plans and the zoning bylaws explicitly say the goal is to establish and maintain a low density residential development pattern and maintain the rural character of the area. This amendment is being requested purely by the builder, who can use their existing catalog for wider homes, for example, not because the community benefits or planning justification.
It's not in the best interest of our community.
It's not. So people who choose to live in a Whitetail Ridge did not want high density benefits. That's why we moved here in the first place. Almont is precisely the reason why I avoid the tighter side yards and rural and crowded feel of larger towns and suburban subdivisions, like most of us came from Ottawa or Canada. Allowing these 4 lots and others to be developed under the relaxed rule effectively imports suburbia and building standards into a low density area. And the visuals, real estates, and livability impacts will be felt for everyone and by all homeowners in the area and throughout the subdivision. And the last point is that there's only one way in or out of this neighborhood at this time. And so everyone has to come through the nice neighborhood and only to get into the high density area that they'll come around the corner. That's pretty much about it.
We do not support.
They'll ask you that later. We
All
don't
right.
support this request.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Lavoie.
I had Melinda Lavoie, but I'm assuming that's the voice that was joining Mr. Lavoie.
Okay.
But
Yeah,
I'm not-
that's correct. Yeah,
Do you
we
have-
don't. Yeah, we don't support it. And for them to say that they've already got a plan that's been pre-approved, I would be curious to know, was there neighbors at the time that was approved? Because I don't think anybody would, support that. I don't think it should be a precedent that should be carried on. I think we need to protect our low density neighborhood. That's why we buy here, and we need to stick to that. The city needs to support it and stick to by what they can't be just changing their minds. Oh, this and that and the other thing, just because it's easier for a builder. We need to protect our community and our neighborhood.
I'm just looking at lot 161 on the map that's on the screen there. That's the one right across the street from the three ones across there on that right beside the corner.
Yeah.
That has a new Neil Corp house there that's end to end on each side, and has a corner house. So there's no one on the one side of it for 161, and that house on the other side of 161, I guess it's 157 on the corner, probably wasn't populated at the time, or they certainly wouldn't have known about it. So there probably would have been no one there to say anything about it anyways.
So thank you, Mr. Lenoir. And Ms. Lavoie, was there anything further, or have we captured the comments you wanted to share at the public meeting?
Nope, that would be all. Thanks.
All right, thank you very much.
Jason Kane. Okay. Krishna Balakai. I'm just going to give them one more. Is there any more participants? Because I see an Ian Mockett on as well.
Hi, yes. To follow up from what Mike has what he has said would be pretty tough. Mike said it all, and I'm affected. I'm on 136, so one of the lots that they want to increase is right beside me, and I am definitely not for it. Based on the fact that, yes, it takes away from the look of the community. It takes away from potential resale values, just as Mike said. To put this in after the fact, seeing this development is 90+% done, I think is wrong. I think the township needs to shut this down before I don't think it should even gone here, to be honest with you. I'm definitely not for it. I'm no all the way, especially having one of these properties right beside me. And the look of these homes that he is suggesting or proposing, it takes away from the feel of the community. All the way around, wrong.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mockett. If I could just offer a technical comment, just for clarity's sake. A property owner has the right to put forward an application. Staff don't have the right to deny an application going through process. So that's what we're doing at this point is having an application go through process. So just to clarify, why we are here and how we are here. It's not the role of staff to make those kinds of decisions, and there is a due process. We're in the middle of that due process. Yeah, just to make sure it's understood. Being here doesn't mean decisions are being made one way or the other. It means we're following process. I'm just going to go back to the clerk. I think we have some folks there. I just want to make sure if anyone is wanting to speak, they can.
The last person is Robert Dick.
Okay.
Robert, if you could just unmute yourself, then you can speak.
Not sure if you're hearing us, Robert, but if you're speaking, we're not hearing you right now. You'd need to unmute. Okay, we've
Hi,
unmuted.
can you hear me now?
There we go. Yes, we can. Thank you.
That's me.
Please go
Hello?
right ahead. Yeah, we can hear you. Please go right ahead. He's muted himself. He's not here.
Hello?
Hi, can you hear us, Mr. Dick?
Oh, yes. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, sorry about that. Technical difficulties on my end. Thank you for allowing me to speak for a second. All I'll really add here is that Whitetail Ridge has been around for a long time, probably 25 years, or close to 20 to 25 years. Things change over time. One of the issues that that we've found, and we were offered the last 8 lots by the developer that owns the property. One of the challenges that we found is people. There's a lot more people that are looking for bungalows, and I would encourage any of the residents that are living in there now to look at some of the previously built bungalows. In my opinion, because of the setbacks, they look very tiny on the lot. So in fact, I believe what we're trying to do is make the houses look like they fit better into the community. And again, we're only talking about 6.5 feet in 80 feet of frontage. If you look at the 2 houses that we built there already on 144 and 161, they I would hazard to say that they fit into the sort of look of the community. I'm, in my opinion, better than some of the bungalows that are previously built over the last number of years. So it's that's the only reason why we're looking for this amendment, is because we have a lot more people looking for bungalows now as opposed to 2 stories. And the bungalow, in order to, like, for the builder to meet the covenants, you have to have an 1,800 square foot bungalow. And if you build an 1,800 square foot bungalow, with the setbacks that you have, you get the bungalow house looks like a bowling alley. You have to have all your square footage in a very narrow frontage, and then your square footage goes a lot further back into the house. So, sorry, into the property. We have done this at 144. The appropriate notice went out to the community within the appropriate distances, and so we built that house, and again, in my opinion, I think it looks great and fits right in. That's all I have to say right now. My name is Robert Dick. I'm the owner of Neilcorp Homes, and I'm open to any questions.
Okay, thank you very much.
And that is all who we have online.
Okay. So I'll just underline in case there's anyone at home listening, or for the individuals who have shared some comments with us today. We can continue to receive written comments. A written comment has as equal weight, equal importance as a verbal comment. And Mr. Brennan, they'd be accepted until what time?
Through you, Your Worship, we are intending to bring this back on, I believe it's April 14th, the next COW meeting. So we would prefer to have comments in prior to the agenda being published the previous Wednesday.
Okay. Okay. So if there's other comments, or, sometimes you go to bed at night and you think of something in the middle of the night that, oh gosh, I wish I had shared that. Certainly there's still an opportunity to do that and reaching out directly to the planning department.
Could I ask a question?
We don't really do a back and forth with questions, Mr. Lavoie, but if you would like to give that question to staff, I'm certain that they would get back to you on whatever your question might be.
Thanks. The simple question would be if the gentleman at 136 Frank Fisher, so Ian Muckett, if he was aware about the 163 property already having been approved, or the other property that Robert mentioned at 144, I think it was. And that'd be question number 1. And number 2, it would be great to hear a a response for those points I mentioned from the owner of Neil Corp. I think that was Robert, on a point of the changing from low density to high density, the visual aspects, the negative effects on real estate, resale value, marketability, the privacy, that kind of stuff, and not just it looks good. It's because
So, Mr. Lavoie, you may not have heard me well. I'm not sure. Hopefully the microphone's picking me up well. When we have a public meeting, we don't do a back and forth between the different members of the public who might be providing commentary, and we don't do a back and forth between the members of the public and the applicant. But what we certainly can do is if you have questions that you'd like our staff to respond to, you can submit those to them. You can give a call to the planning department. The comments that have been received either verbally or in written format will be tabulated. They'll be in the materials that come to council. But you are absolutely welcome to reach out to staff and ask questions, but we don't do a back and forth between members of the public and the applicant and whatnot. So I think we'll close things at this point, but I would underline you're certainly welcome to provide further written comments, and we will have responses to all of those comments and questions in the report that comes forward to council. So this concludes the public meeting, and I thank Mr. Brennan for being with us, and I thank again those who were online for your comments, and I do encourage that you reach out to staff for further dialogue. So we'll move on to the Committee of the Whole report. This is from our last meeting on the 10th. There's 3 items there on our report. Are any of these ones a member would like to have separate vote or discussion on? Councillor Holmes.
Yes, I'd like to pull 1.3, please.
Okay. Anything further? Not seeing anything. So I'm going to suggest that council approve the Committee of the Whole motions I1 and I2 from the March 10th, 2026 meeting. Is there a mover and seconder for that? Thank you, Councillor Lowe and Councillor Ferguson. Not seeing any discussion, so all in favor? Thank you. That carries. And let's go to the third, the draft policy for hard surface roadway prioritization for capital renewals. Councillor Holmes.
Okay, so I disagree with this policy based on the fact that the decision on roads projects should be a joint decision with council based on the criteria identified in the policy which is before us. It should not be just a report to council prior to tendering. In my mind, these projects become operations, and once they are brought to council with recommendations for approval, then they become operations. So I will be opposing, and I'm going to ask for a recorded vote, please. Thank you.
Were there any other comments about number 3? Yes, Councillor Torrance.
I am in agreement with Councillor Holmes. I think that the job of council is to be able to have the information that's presented to us by staff and then to be able to make decisions. This kind of reverses that process, and having it as a report for council, not for decision at tender, just as information, instead of, I know we talked about it, that it would be moved up in the process to come back to council. And that is not the document that was circulated today, the updated policy, I think falls short in my mind. And I think it does not give enough accountability for council, because it's us who is approving the jobs, and I think that we need to be able to do our job, and this doesn't allow us to do it.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Lowe?
Thank you. Would I be able to ask the Director Smith a question?
Sure.
Director Smith, do you have any latitude in terms of, so you have the policy and you have the points that you need to look at for each road in terms of their condition. Do you have any latitude on how that's recorded? What I'm trying to get at is we've given you a policy and we've given you the measuring tools to use. What sort of decision-making do you have outside of that? I'm not saying it very well. What I'm trying to say is, I believe that council's responsibility is to set policy and give you the tools that you need to do your job where you are the expert and we're not. What I'm trying to say, is there something that staff, what some of the councillors are concerned about, and it's a fair concern, if we feel like we're losing the policy-making part of it. So what I'm trying to get to is there a point in the roads assessment where you're making subjective decisions about which road should be measured and need to be done this year, or which road should be measured and need to be done the following year? Or are you simply following the exact steps and policy and measurements that we gave you?
For the most part, it is simply a mathematical formula. There are some minor subjective portions in that, being that if there is a shared road, say with the city of Ottawa, that we would have had pre-approved, that it may take a higher precedent, or if there is other direction that's provided.
So savings, if there could be some savings, like for example, on
If there's economies of scale, if there is a segment of road that is attached to an existing segment of road,
yeah,
that would make sense instead of us going back a year or two later and spending twice the amount, we'd certainly look at following the economies of scale on that.
thank you very much. Can I have a follow-up question? I'm just going to put it out there to the other councillors. Hearing what the director said there, is it a part of the policy that you'd like amended? Because that's something I could consider if there's part of the policy you're not worried, that you're not happy with.
I think the policy, they're good guidelines, but I go back to the fact that when does operations start? And we step out, and I believe it's after the decision is made on what roads to do. And I understand that there is a mathematical formula, but it's still just a formula, and there's a lot of other things go into these decisions too. You can't just do everything based on mathematics. So I'm just against the policy. I don't think there's any need for it. I can't remember us ever having a fist fight over roads in the 8 years I've been here. So I'm just thinking that we as councillors have a responsibility and we need to carry it out. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Toronto, did you want to respond?
Well, I would say I quite like the policy. I like the fact that we're going to be able to make decisions based on data, but I think it needs to come to us to make the decisions. I think that and exactly as Councillor Holmes says, where does the operational begin and the policy end, and where are the decisions made? I would say it's in the middle, and yet this says we approve the policy and then we accept a report, and there's no more decision. As soon as we accept this policy, there's no more decision to be made. And we will be presented with the list of projects. They've added prior to tendering an information report will be presented to council. That's not a decisional report, it's information. We had asked that there would be a decision point previous to that, and that was not included in the policy. So I like the policy. I like the fact that we will be making decisions based on data, but the way it's written, we're not making those decisions.
Thank you. I'm going to go back to Councillor Lowe.
Thank you. When I became a councillor, I took our role very seriously and really embedded the ideals of it, and that our job is to set the strategic goals, create the bylaws, and set policy. Our job is not to second guess the experts that we've hired. And some may think that means that we're just sort of giving up responsibility. Where we have control over that is that then if staff is not doing their job properly, then it becomes a human resources issue. So we set the policy. staff follow it. If staff, I'm not suggesting you're not. If staff are incapable of following it and errors start to happen, then staff needs to be addressed. But I firmly believe that our job as counselors is to set bylaws, set policy, oversee the CAO, and not get involved in operations. So where the question of where does it stop, we gave them a policy and that's where it stops.
Councillor Holmes?
I agree with what Councillor Torrance said. And yes, I agree with all that my Councillor Lowe has said, but I go back to the fact that I believe operations start after the decision is made from council based on the really good information. Like, I think this is a great process. The only thing that's left out of it is council. Thank you.
Councillor Suter?
I'm coming at this from a slightly different lens. I agree that our job is to make policy. But my understanding when I became a counselor was that it was also oversight of budget. And that we do have procurement policies and we do have responsibility for the budget. Most of the policy as presented centers on a very mathematical, very logical, very sane process for identifying what needs to be done and prioritizing it. But also in 523 priority list projects, you have what is essentially a notwithstanding clause. And that's necessary to have because from the beginning of a process that starts in September to the next February, a lot can happen. A road that isn't even on the radar for repair might get washed out in a large storm or a flood, or a culvert could crumble underneath a road, and suddenly what was not there when we first saw it in September would have to be there. And my point is that I would like to see the list of projects before tendering. And I do disagree that at that point we start picking and choosing. I don't think any of the councillors want to do that, but I would like to see this information because our job is also oversight, and we are in the role where we represent the constituents and the constituents come to us. So we need information to give them. And the amended statement that simply said an information report would be presented before tendering is too vague. If this is accepted, I would like a friendly amendment that says that staff would provide an information report which includes the final priority list for hard surface renewal program before the tendering process begins. Because if you don't have it, we could get, or another council could get, an information report that is vague, ambiguous, and an exercise in smoke and mirrors. And I don't think anybody wants that.
Councillor Suter, I'm sure that you're not meaning that staff would be trying not to be clear about what would be in a report.
I was not trying to imply that staff had any way. I'm saying hypothetically it could be done. That's a hypothesis that's different than trying to level guns at our staff. I do not wish that.
Okay. I just want to make sure I'm understanding. So in the information report, what are the details that you're looking for? Like the final prioritization list? I want to make
Yes,
sure I
the list which was included when this first came before us. And it is called the priority list for 2026 hard surfaced renewal program.
So something with that level of details, what you're meeting?
That's the list, yes.
All right. We're kind of going around in circles here and we don't have a motion on the floor. So before we continue with discussions, I need to pull this back up here. Sorry, I have way too many windows open at the moment here. There we go. So the motion that we're discussing at the moment is resolution number CW 26-040. The council directs staff to amend the draft policy to include an annual council report to provide an overview of the annual analysis of roads, and that council approve the draft policy for hard surface roadway prioritization for capital renewals as amended. Are you commenting or you?
I can make the motion to get it on the table.
Okay, so we've got it moved. Is there a seconder to the motion? Moved by the deputy mayor. And I'm trying to recall, Councillor Torrance, I think your hand was up. Councillor Lowe, your hand was up. Was there anyone else I'm missing that had further comments at this point? Okay, please go ahead, Councillor
My
Torrance.
comment specifically on 5.2.3, that priority list projects, it's one I made in committee of whole and I will continue to make, is that once the annual report is developed, the director will review it with the CAO and treasurer before finalizing it. And I believe it will review it with the council, the CAO and treasurer before finalizing it. I think that is, the council needs to see it before it's finalized. So that is where what would make me happy is to see council involved earlier on in the end of 5.2.3, the priority list projects, that it's not finalized by staff, it's actually finalized by council.
Okay, I'm looking at the 5.2.3 priority list projects. So it's the review. Yeah, so it's the review with the director, CEO, and treasurer before finalizing. That is the
It would
point of
include
contention.
council. That's my sticking point right there, is that it would include council before it's finalized.
Okay. Councillor Lowe, you were next.
I just wanted to make a motion.
Oh, I'm sorry, your hand was up before.
Yeah, that's what I was.
Oh, that we were wanting to make a motion. Okay. Is there anyone that I have missed with a comment? Councillor Holmes.
I just have a question with what Councillor Torrance had suggested. You were saying that it is reviewed with staff, or I can't remember exactly the word. Would there be a vote then? Yeah, so it would be a motion. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Okay, I'm not seeing other yes.
I just want to make one comment. I will be voting in favor of this. I think we got capable staff, and I think the way they handle stuff, I don't want to be sitting in a meeting and arguing about roads, which road's going to be done, especially Ann Street. So I'll be voting in favor of it, and I think that I know it's a political decision when you do a road, but that's why we're here. So we'll leave it in the capable hands of our staff, and if we're not happy with it, like Vicky said, we can either change it up or.
Then it becomes an HR problem.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I said.
Yeah, yes, then it comes, thank you for not leading me astray. Okay, thank you.
So I'm just gonna go to the clerk for some advice on how to look at that 5.2.3 that Councillor Torrance is wanting to make. I think it's just an amendment to that point is what we would do. Okay.
It would just be an amendment to the policy, not an amendment to the motion. because we don't
Okay.
have a motion on the floor. So I
We
think.
do have the motion on the floor.
Do we have the motion? We don't
Yeah,
have a
it was
seconder.
Moved by Councillor Lowe and
Moved it?
seconded by the deputy mayor.
Okay, sorry, I missed that.
No, that's okay.
So then it would be an amendment to. Sorry, just. We would, so if Councillor Torrance wants to make an amendment, we'd amend the motion to essentially include an and that section 5.3.2 be amended to add and for.
That the review would include council.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Would you like to make that motion? The amendment?
Yes, I would like to make that amendment to 5.2.3. Once the annual report is developed, the director will review it with council before finalizing it. And before, and for approval with council.
Okay.
Direct it for approval by council.
For approval by council. Okay.
Mhm.
So we have an amendment proposed. Is there a seconder to that amendment? Councillor Holmes? Any discussion on that amendment? I'm going to make a comment and I'm going to do it lightly because I do recognize I'm in the chair. I appreciate where some of the comments are coming from in wanting to be involved, informed, and part of process. I lean very heavy on our role as being in charge of governance and setting policy. And it makes me uncomfortable to set a policy and then become involved in a technical decision. I feel as a decision maker, much more comfortable setting that policy and the expectations of staff and implementing policy so that there is transparency, there's fairness, and beyond us, you know, to next terms of council and whatnot. And I will leave my comments there because I do recognize I'm in the chair, but wanted to make that that comment regarding the amendment. Before we go to the vote, is there comments about the amendment, Councillor Torrance?
Well, I would just have one final comment is that I agree that it is our job to create policy, and the fundamental job of the council is to think about governance first, and that includes policy. When we are implementing the policy, that is where staff takes over. There is that little fine line. If we were to say, once this is done, then staff does it, we would not be involved in budget, would we? We've set our priorities. We would not be involved in budget. We would not be involved in planning. We've already set the OP. We would not be allowed in zoning. We already have a zoning bylaw. There's a fine line where we have worked very hard on policy, and then there's a little tiny piece of overlap. And this is that little tiny piece of overlap that I see before we then let it go to council. That would just be my final point and
Thank you. So all in favor of the amendment that's been put forward, please raise your hands. You seconded this amendment? Okay. So can you put your microphone on?
Could I see a written, I get, there's been so much conversation. I'd really like to read that amendment.
Can you bring up 5.2.3 in the policy? And while they're doing that, Councillor Lowe.
In the meantime,
Yeah.
just to give them
Still
some
time.
time. And to Councillor Torrance's points, we don't see the budget. We don't see an update to the budget. We see things that come back if there is something outside of the budget that we set. So if there's an anomaly and it's enough that staff need to come back to us to say, we can't follow your policy, then it comes back. Same with zoning. We don't see the zoning unless it comes back as an amendment to the zoning. So I still see that our role is to only set policy. And again, if staff were to come back and say, we lost $5 million last year, then we have an HR issue, right? We have to make back $5 million, but also we have an HR issue. But we have checks and balances in place so that that could never happen, right? They would have to come back to us to say, if Corey couldn't make a decision whatever, let's say a road got washed out, Corey. And we had already set the policy, the roads were done, and you're about to start and a road washes out, you would come back to us and say, look, I know we passed this. This is what, you know, the roads were graded at, but we have an issue. So I think it's the exceptions we see. We don't see an update to the budget, right? We set and we trust staff to come back to us if there's something outside of it. That's all.
Okay. So this is the amendment. Maybe not exactly the words, but I think the intention. Councillor Torrance, is that okay? Okay. All right. So I'm going to call the vote then on the amendment that's been moved and seconded. All in favor of this amendment? All opposed? And it's carried. So back to the main motion as amended. Is there further discussion on that? Okay, Councillor Suter?
Echoing Councillor Holmes, we've gone through a couple more loops. Could I please see the written version of the original amendment?
That was what it was. That was the amendment. We added in, can you bring it back up, please? That was the amendment. Yeah, we voted on the amendment. We're going back to the main motion, which is in the agenda package with that amendment that we just voted on.
Oh. Okay. Again, in main motion, I was not in favor of the vagueness of the amended statement. However, understanding the way this has worked, if the amendment has passed, then we will see the priority list, which is what my point was. And therefore, that's not needed to be further expanded, that statement. Okay, so all
right, so we're back to the main motion as amended. And Councillor Holmes has asked for a recorded vote, so we'll go to the clerk. Is there further comments?
As per section 80.1 of procedural bylaw 23-041, if a member present at a council meeting at the time of a vote requests immediately before or after the taking of the vote that the vote be recorded, each member starting with the requester of the recorded vote and moving alphabetically from that member through the list with the mayor chair voting last, shall announce his or her vote upon request openly and individually unless otherwise prohibited by statute. The clerk shall record the same and announce the result of the vote. Councillor Councillor Holmes.
With the amendment, yay.
Councillor Lowe.
Yay.
Councillor Suter.
Yay.
Councillor Torrance.
Yay.
Deputy Mayor Manili.
Yay.
Councillor Ferguson. Mayor Lowry.
Yay.
That carries 7-0.
All right, thank you. Moving to the council report, we have a proclamation. And I'm looking for a mover and seconder to proclaim that April 11th, 2026 is Parkinson's Awareness Day. Is there a mover and seconder? Thank you, Councillor Lowe, Councillor Torrance. Thank you. Any comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Thank you. We have proclaimed April 11th, Parkinson's Awareness Day. Are there any announcements and invitations? Councillor Holmes.
This Sunday is pancake breakfast day at the Union Hall. I think it's starting about 9 until dinner time, so they'll be happy to see you there if you can make it.
Anything further? Councillor Suter.
well, this is not an invitation, but I guess a commendation and announcement. Very recently, 2 of our high school teams have made it to the All Ontario competition level, which in itself is an enormous achievement. It was the senior boys basketball team and the ski team who came in second at Collingwood, Blue Mountain, just 2 weeks ago. So I would like to commend the high school and its athletes.
Thank you. Anything further? All right, seeing that, we are going to move into a closed session, and I'm sorry, that means everyone who has just arrived, you're going to have to step out. Our motion is that council enter into an in-camera session at 7:21 as per position plan procedure criteria. All in favor? Thank you. So we'll move into closed session. All right, so the rise and report from item N1, the negotiating a land lease with the Ministry of Natural Resources. We have a motion that reads that council directs staff to pursue a 5-year lease of the entire Clayton Park site from the Ministry of Natural Resources with a budget of 15,000 plus the costs of maintenance. Is there a mover and seconder? Maybe our Ramsey councillors, Councillor Holmes and Councillor Lowe. All in favor of that motion? Thank you. That carries. All right, that brings us to the confirmatory bylaw. Our bylaw reads that bylaw 26-021, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Council of the Corporation of the Municipality of Mississippi Mills at its regular meeting held on the 24th day of March 2026, be read, passed, signed, and sealed in open council that's 24th day of March 2026. And is there a mover and seconder for that motion? Thank you, Councillor Suter and Councillor Ferguson. All in favor? Thank you. That carries, and we are adjourned at 7:34. Thanks very much, everyone.